Dean, I understand you had a statement or you had a presser out here.
Pardon?
You were gonna do a presser out here. Or you were gonna do a statement.
Yeah. On behalf of myself and Batchawana First, are you ready to go?
Just in one second. I'm gonna film this first.
Well, I want to start first by saying it's a great day to be in Nishnabek. We had a great day in the settler courts. We have lots of reasons to celebrate. On behalf of myself and Batchawana First Nation, I feel confident in saying that we're pleased with the ruling at this court level in the matter of the Gargantua Harbor, or as we call it, Nanabujang. We're content that 20 of the 22 counts were dismissed, and we will be appealing every ground of the standing charges. There are specific areas within the notice of motion and ruling that are really noteworthy. On page 17, Justice Logan affirms that a treaty right does exist for Batchawana First Nation members within our original reserve that we have identified for ourselves, outlined in historical documents from Pukasaw to Grocap. MNR failed in their duty to consult with our First Nation, and it was reaffirmed by Justice Logan as a priority user when charging the park's master plan of 1992. The plan, as it exists, is a violation of Batchawana's treaty rights to the area. There were areas in the motion and ruling we were not comfortable with, in which we identified as a misinterpretation of evidence. Specifically, I'd like to clarify that as Chief of the First Nation, with advice from my council, we were reacting to a threat from the conservation officers who assured us that they would defend the park with guns. Our First Nation had never any intentions of reacting to the officers' threats. We had always intended and continue to participate in resolutions that are peacefully orchestrated. We as a First Nation had always been progressive in asserting our rights, and it's encouraging to see the positivity that's being affirmed by the justice at this court level. It is all too often that we are promised one thing and granted another. We hope this ruling sends a clear message to the province that prohibiting First Nations from accessing their territory will not be condoned. We hear instances every day of gates, even today, gates and barriers that are being constructed in order to keep First Nations out. We never accepted this, and we encourage to see Ontario's justice system finally start to reaffirm that. Today, we've gotten to see our treaty rights upheld, and that's a small victory for our First Nation, for all First Nations as well. So there has been no extinguishment of our pre-existing Aboriginal and treaty right, and we have no intention of surrendering those rights in any way. And the justice today affirmed that those rights are still there, and they will continue to be recognized and asserted by the people of Batchawana First Nation, and for that matter, all Ontario First Nations people. Ontario does have work to do with us, and we're ready to roll up our sleeves around how we can move forward together, really cognizant and reflective of this rich history that still today recognize the existence of First Nations, Aboriginal, and treaty rights, and in particular in this particular area at Nanabujang.
What does this do? What does this decision mean for your ongoing battle to get Gargantua Harbor back?
Well, there's inapplicability of certain provincial policies, statutes, laws that we have to be really cognizant of, and we have to take inventory of that. And the first exercise for us is taking a look at our proposed actions and whether or not it's aligned with those things that we're in the habit of doing. So we always think about that. Was this something that we have been in the habit of doing as we take action on our lands that were set aside for us in a treaty relationship? And that's the first test for us. So we will continue to evolve, we will continue to grow, we will continue to use our lands that we're in the habit of doing. And we'll use those in every way we can. And it's unfortunate that even today that our people are calling me and saying they put big boulders on this access to where I go hunting, or they put a gate in this area on Crown land where I used to go and rainbow fish. And we're still hearing it even since these charges have been put forward in the last 7 or 8 years. We're still hearing of the Ontario government not really recognizing what we reserved as our rights in our treaty relationship. And I'm glad the court did what they did today and said, no, you can't do that, Ontario. You can't do it in isolation anymore. You have to talk to the First Nation. From our perspective, Ontario and the government of Ontario needs our free, prior, informed consent on decisions that can and may have effect on our well-being as a people.
Can you talk about what Gargantua Harbour means to Batchawana First Nation?
Well, Nanabojang, or I guess it's more referred to more recently as Gargantua Harbour, is a place that our people used extensively as a village that we lived in. It's a spiritual place. It's rich with food. It's rich with fish. It's rich with our culture. It's rich with many of our foundational elements as a people. It's one of our villages, as there were many along the eastern shores of Lake Superior, and we still have those rights to be able to do what we're in the habit of doing in all of those community locations,
Chief,
up to the height of land, to where the water flows into Lake Superior.
Chief, define roll up your sleeves. You mentioned that. I assume you would want more than just negotiation. You'd want to see some action. As the lawyer had said in the courtroom, this has been going on for years.
This has been going on probably since 1851.
Right.
Maybe even in October of 1850, after the treaty was signed, where there was a high level of discontentment on what we've foreseen as the possible evolution of the expectations we had around treaty implementation. So when I say roll up our sleeves, it's more to sit down and provide an awareness and education and really come together so that we can really capture the essence and the spirit and the intent of our treaty relationships, because we were supposed to benefit. We're not saying that as a people that we want to take every dollar of every resource extraction or every development and use it for the First Nation. No, we need to revisit what that means to truly share in our living together with everybody that comes to our lands.
Is that the game changer, or what is the game changer that'll turn it all in favor for everyone, so that for all First Nations in Ontario, so they don't have to go through this?
Well, I think the game changer will be the appetite that Ontario come forward with in regards to the new relationship that the Premier has been talking about. I think the Premier needs to, as well, along with her senior ministers, roll up their sleeves and come to the table to resolve these outstanding historical differences. We shouldn't, as First Nations, if there's really sincerity in the provincial government's positions around First Nations issues, we shouldn't be spending, as First Nations across the province, millions and millions and buckets of dollars to fight inappropriate, misaligned spirit and intent of Ontario government actions with our First Nations perspectives on how treaties were to evolve.